And what that looked like when I started to merge, because I had already done the life review and cleared a lot of things in the body, had already from the last 12 hours done a lot of collapsing of the grids. It was like a re-encryption and a repair, but I was able to come in. And when I came in, the most fascinating thing occurred. And I find this really helpful for people to understand that this is how it works when we process our life, or we potentially become aware of our program and our system, how it works. What this being had done, it was very fascinating. So there I am now. I can feel the density of the physical body. I feel now that I'm not here swimming outside of myself, but I'm fully merging into the cells, and the cell memories are merging with the new consciousness. And I know that my name isn't Cassandra. I'm not going to be called Cassandra. I really not going to be any part of that. I didn't sign up for Cassandra. I signed up for consciousness and life. And I was like, let's get in here.
But that's where we're at.
Hello and welcome. I'm Cassandra, a walk-in that came into this carnation in 2012 and walked into this body. I am going to share with you what took place on April 12th, 2012 at the Luxor Pyramid Hotel and the beginning journey of my walk-in experience. This is a perfect time as we are all in this awakening timeline, this ascension timeline. The journey that I took as a walk-in will help you in your journey, whether you are awakened, looking for answers, trying to figure out what's going on, how to navigate going through transformation and activation of your DNA and changing your DNA. Many right now have a lot of questions that are curious, and this is the perfect time to be able to share with you my experience here as a walk-in, as a cosmic walk-in, as I say. It should help support anybody's journey, no matter where they are in their consciousness journey at this time. I'm going to begin now with the Chronicles of a Walk-in. When I walked into this body, it was more or less a healthy physical body. I am aware that many walk-ins come into this carnation or come in and take over a body that's been damaged or have had an accident or some kind of traumatic injury has occurred within the physical body and the life experience of the person that chooses to exit and another soul chooses to enter. When I walked in, there was not a lot of information that you could find on the internet or from other people about walk-ins. There wasn't enough information to help support somebody that was walking in. There is a process that I went through as a walk-in that integrated the physical body and all the cellular memory that was left over in the physical body to be able to navigate my life and fit into the life of the previous person that was in the body. What I mean by that is when a soul comes in or consciousness comes in and starts to merge with the cellular memory of the physical body, the body holds the memory. So the memory of the body, because I was very healthy, or the physical body was very healthy, it knew how to walk, talk, drive. It had memory of who the family was, experience that they were going to have to live out, and all the memory was there. In the walk-in experience, however, the emotional polarities, dualities, experience of the previous being that caused the soul to exit are removed mostly. In my case, as you will hear, I was I was entering already into a vessel that the previous being had crashed all their belief systems and constructs around what was happening to them, why Earth was like it was, why their experience was like it was. And I will make a video on that as well so you can see what somebody goes through in their awakening process and coming self aware. What happened with me started in a hotel room in the Pyramid Hotel. When I came in, the first thing that came to my vision was a man standing at the window of a hotel room, opening the blinds and saying, "We have to check out. It's time to check out. We got to get to the other hotel and they're going to kick us out." And I was laying on my side, looking at the window, and this man saying this, looking at the alarm clock and registering that it was 9:30 something in the morning, and immediately, at a very fast rate, I knew that the man standing at the window was my husband, and I had this brief, very brief moment where I thought that everything, that being my husband, him opening the window, getting checked out of the hotel, was normal. Like it was a timeline that was going to just continue on. When I say brief, it was 30 seconds or less for me to compute that information, and 30 seconds to my whole body reacting to where I was, what was happening. The previous night, the last thing that had occurred was the soul in this body, the life experience soul had chosen to exit. The way that I'm aware many walk-ins come in is a soul that may have chosen to exit in a very traumatic way physically. I haven't met many walk-ins that have exited with the body still intact, the brain still intact, the nervous system still intact without any injury of some kind. So there I was in a consciousness substance state. So my consciousness, which is substance, we could say it's DNA, was experienced here, close to the body, the best way I can explain it. And the body itself was in a fetal position and started to cry. When it started to cry, it wasn't separate, but there was a void inside the body where the body suddenly recognized that a big purging had taken place, and the body started to sob without new information coming in of what to do. It just remembered they could not get up, they could not check out of the room, and there was some kind of interference, wouldn't allow them. And the last emotion felt in the body was that part was the traumatic part. So in this particular instance, the emotional trauma and the collapse of all belief systems previous was still being grieved, is the best way that I can explain it. The body was still grieving the emotional memory out of the body. When I, as consciousness, recognized, hey, I'm part of this. I'm part of this body. Let me come into the body and move the body, emerge with the body. Suddenly, I was shown or met with the chaotic memory of what had transpired over the last 12 to 24 hours. The body, the being that was in the body before, had lived a particular way. And what they had done is they had collapsed all of the belief systems and realized that absolutely every way that they had lived their life was built upon a lie. And when they started to deconstruct their own mind, their own belief systems, their own beliefs from being a Mormon, from being in religion, from how the world worked, this experience unfolded over a few months, maybe a year, that they questioned their own mind, which led them to question their own reality. And when they were doing that, they weren't aware they were becoming self aware of what their existence had been like. So when I was coming in to merge, I could view the memory from the cellular memory of the body as well as DNA memory. And we could even say life review memory. I've been asked a lot what was walking in? What was I before I walked in? And I use the word substance or plasma to describe my consciousness because my consciousness was very alive and very malleable. And I was very aware of my consciousness as being energy form, but a very substance. It had color. It was full of really dark blues and purples, which created this almost like it was a black substance, but it wasn't. It started to become very dense in its substance in order to merge. And at the point of walking into or coming into the body and merging everything, I had to be able to read what the other life had experienced. As I was reading it, I became of the life that the person had lived. The reason I explain it this way is because it was a very different being than the one that I am now. So I got to see and read at a very high quantum experience, one, why the body was crying and what was the trauma and the experience, and to enter and to merge. So I got to see all the storylines, the what I would call a life review, how the person existed, and I was reading it like you would read a movie. You were seeing a movie at a very fast pace, and you could see all the experience that this being had, and you could see and the biggest surprise that I didn't expect was I didn't see that the being really lived, had fulfilled a life, had lived a life. I could only see they had lived, existed in a script that they played out. And when I was viewing their life in the review, as my consciousness looked at it, I was 100% sure that I was not going to live that being's life and come into this body and participate as what they had left behind. In every script that I saw, there was nothing in that existence that I wanted to go live as. And I could see that the being actually never fulfilled life. They came, they had a body, and then they played out programs through beliefs that were more like status quo. So they had a status quo and they were living there. I could see that the person who was a mother who did this was a mother, had children, was a wife, had done all these many things. And I saw how they lived as such, and they didn't really live. They scripted out how they thought they should live, and then they played basically like a character in a movie. There I was looking at the mother program in the script and everything that this being or this person, this being had come in and lived. There was almost as if my surprise that the person lived as a script almost was horrifying from the perspective, not how you would consider horrifying here in the matrix system by definition, horrifying gore and fear. It was more from the expression of why would anybody come into a body, get a physical body on earth, and then not actually live or know that they weren't living, that they would only script themselves by these made up belief constructs of how to do things. Like it was very robotic. And there was such a stalemate in my consciousness and reading the script or the life review. I absolutely refused that I was not going to go in and enter and live out that life. So what occurred at those moments were a way that I had to look at the whole life review of this person, this being, and take my consciousness and fit into this experience that I was supposed to do in the physical body. There also wasn't an option for me to not do this. The choice had already been made. I was there and I could, it was as if I was everywhere, ubiquitous consciousness, and I could see everything. So even as I was reading the script, I had awareness. I had awareness of a timeline. I had awareness that there was like a mission that was going to complete itself. I also knew the physical body would support this mission. I just had to be able to bypass this script and find a point that I could integrate or merge with the physicality fully and completely. As I'm looking at all of the scripts and how the person lived, I really didn't know how I was going to come into the body and then play out this life experience because the script did create a persona of someone that had children, had offspring, had a husband, and lived in a community in a house. And to me, that was actually quite appalling that was the life that this person chose. The way that I explain that is because it was the word that comes to mind is obtruse. Like it was obtrusive to my consciousness, like in a way that was so simple and robotic, and there was no substance to that reality. It was just like, hey, you're all of this, you're this consciousness that is ubiquitous and connected into all. And then I'm going to strip all of that away and only take a piece, a tiny little piece. And even though you have all of this and all of this knowledge and all of this information into who you really are and the vastness of it in the quantum, in the all, we're going to stick you in this storyline, like one storyline. And that was unacceptable. There was only there was only one way to go, and that was to go into this body. So I wanted to eliminate this script, and I had to come in and get rid of it all and leave it up to the merging to play out the rest of the story and to come into life. As I was looking at the script, I way that I decided that I would have to merge into the physical body. The physical body, of course, was still in a grieving fetal position, crying. The husband was in the room explaining or asking what he could do and just holding that space and not knowing, like just actually not knowing how to help the wife, not knowing, is she okay? Is she crazy? What's happening? And I could sense that. So I was trying to give language to, I have to do these things. But whenever I tried to give a language as the other person, it wouldn't come out. I would just sob. And I decided that I needed to come into this body to complete all of this. So I try to find a spot that I can do it. Now, everything in the body, of course, is memory is attached generally for most people. It is attached to emotion. So, memory comes with emotion and a feeling. So, I could hold all the memory and not have emotional or feeling attached to it because any emotion or feeling that was part of the script was and is false. It's not really who you are. It's not really what you experienced. It's only a feeling or emotion that made you believe and hold on to this memory of that's who you are. So as you go and live your day-to-day life, you're attached to all of these memories of experiences through the feeling and emotion. So when I was pulling up all the memory in the body, I was not able to see anywhere that the being actually had real expression versus emotion and feeling. So, what I was looking for was where was the moment in the memory of the physical and the being where connection came together and the being actually experienced real expression, which I call life, which we could also say is love, which is also could say a 0 point. And I was scanning, and I knew that the person had experienced emotion and feeling. So I would pull up scenarios in the memory bank of where the person experienced emotion and feeling. So, like a beautiful family event where family came together and there's children and a beautiful, let's say, Christmas dinner or a Thanksgiving dinner, or moments where they sat at the table together and created this oneness, apparently. And when I would pull these up, it was the falsified emotion feeling. So there was nothing that I felt in the expression part of that. It was just lifeless. And that was disturbing. And so I just kept going through every part that I could in the memory bank to find this one piece, one moment. And it's so quantum, these moments where if the being really lived fully and completely, they would feel a real expression. So the last the last memory that I was able to pull through was okay, the being had birthed children. They had birthed 3 children and they had the whole child bearing experience in the matrix system in the world. And so that would come to my mind that there is a creation point, and in that creation point of birthing the being into life or as life, that's where you would find that real expression in this being. Like they could feel beyond the emotion, beyond the feeling, that spark. And when I pulled up the being's memory of the birthing, again, it was the emotion and feeling of a script and not of expression. So the being never really got to experience the actual reason what life is and the expression. There was this overlay of the doing that, okay, I birthed this child and now I will feel a happy emotion and now I will feel such beauty in this creation. And it wasn't there. And I almost thought that this would be impossible, that someone would come into a body and actually just experience their life like going through the motions. However, would appear to the rest of the system and the community and all of these things and to their family that they really lived. And when I dug into that, I recognized that, wow, this is not a way to come to earth. It's not a way to live. And how am I going to come into this body if even that isn't life? And then was able to see that the physical body, the physical parts of the body had the memory that there was a physical creation and there was a physical manifestation of that creation, which is a child, which we'll say is the offspring. And that then showed me that despite the overlay and despite the being's scripted way to live life, that they did create life because there was physical proof and a physical manifestation 3 times. And one of the children, scene's memory, was the closest to that realization that there was something more than just the feeling there was emotion. There was a knowing in that moment that when this one child was created and birthed, there was a moment where they recognized something beyond the physical, that perhaps there was a knowing there that there was something more and it wasn't to do with feeling or emotion. So I was able then to hold that memory point and that spark, so to speak. And that was the memory part where I merged into the physical and it worked. And then immediately, what's happening, the best of my ability, I will explain this. So, what happens is I have my DNA consciousness. And let's say DNA is the record, the memory, it's everything in there, the DNA of the soul, if you will. And that was connecting while I was going through this process in the morning, connecting into the DNA of the physical body. So you have your, let's say, the tooth strand DNA, where, eye color, the memory of DNA of the physical family, hair color, gene pool, all of that stuff. So even though I was scanning memory, I was still merging those 2 DNAs. And this advanced or bigger DNA, like the vastness of it, the substance of it, was blowing out I don't want to call it junk DNA, but it's blowing out the memory because it was too much. What this stuff, there was only parts of it that needed to remain. So I had to blow out the memory that was affecting the DNA from really self realizing and being completely all as consciousness came in. And so as I came in, then I really became aware and conscious as physical and consciousness, and then was able to start to speak from the body and not speak in the ether. And what that looked like when I started to merge, because I had already done the life review and cleared a lot of things in the body, had already from the last 12 hours done a lot of collapsing of the grids. It was like a re-encryption and a repair, but I was able to come in. And when I came in, the most fascinating thing occurred. And I find this really helpful for people to understand that this is how it works when we process our life, or we potentially become aware of our program and our system, how it works. What this being had done, it was very fascinating. So there I am now. I can feel the density of the physical body. I feel now that I'm not here swimming outside of myself, but I'm fully merging into the cells, and the cell memories are merging with the new consciousness. And I know that my name isn't Cassandra. I'm not going to be called Cassandra. I really not going to be any part of that. I didn't sign up for Cassandra. I signed up for consciousness and life. And I was like, let's get in here. And then we go from there. And I made an absolute agreement that that's not my life. It's just not, there's no way I'm gonna live it, and that's just what we all know and what we all understand, and that's absolute, and I am the absolute. So I come in, and then I see and feel and become aware, and the body, because of this merging, the rest of the memory left in the body s- needs to purge out. And this is what that experience was like. I equate it to, there's a story in the Bible. It may be in other books and text about this being called Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane. And in the Garden of Gethsemane, I believe it was the night before the crucifixion, felt all the pains and all of the memory of the suffering of all mankind. And the story is that the pain was not from the crucifixion on the cross, it occurred in the Garden of Gethsemane in the body of Christ, who felt all the pains and suffering of all the people. And that he bled from every pore and every cell, all of these pains and suffering. And the story is that was done so that we wouldn't have to suffer. Now, I can always talk about that later and how that works, but that, if you're a Christian or have that story in mind and understand, that was what was occurring in my physical body, but without the storyline or anything falsified, suffering that was inside the cells and pores of the body. Now, not all the suffering this person ever experienced. The body itself was actually never traumatized in a major accident or had any major sexual traumas or things of that nature that they held on to. But what the fascinating thing is, what this being did is in their journey of trying to help others from their suffering and trying to heal others and wanting to become a healer and trying to learn how you heal other people through their mess, through their traumas, and then also wanting to really care for these other beings that were in their suffering, that she would really genuinely, in her idea and concept, that she could help heal these beings. And this is what happened unconsciously to her.